Hello, dear friends. My name is Padma, and it is my pleasure, my joy to, on this wonderful occasion of Divine Mother's Festival Day, to share with you the pious life of Gyana Prabha Ghosh, Yogananda's mother, Paramahansa Yogananda's mother. So, Paramahansa Yogananda, who I'll refer to Master's household consisted of his parents, Bhagavati Charan Ghosh and Gyana Prabha Ghosh, and their 8 children. And he was the second son and the 4th child. So you can imagine this lady of the house who was of the most gentle kind, and as Yogananda describes in his autobiography of a yogi, that while father was kind, but he could be at times distant and sometimes a little harsh when the kids were being naughty. But mother never lost her patience. Mother was the queen of hearts, and her way was to teach the children through love and through affection. And in that way, she inspired the children to be good, to be honest, to learn the good principles of life. So she had a really big heart, and her heart would cry for the poor and the needy. And as Yogananda's brother, Shanandalal Ghosh, he also penned down a book called Mejta, where he recounts all the childhood, boyhood stories of Yogananda. There he says that mother's charity was a part of their family expense. Like there was a story of how she would, in one fortnight, she used up the entire month's salary to feed the poor. And so when they visited their paternal home in Ichapur, I think that his grandfather's house in Ichapur, he says how mother would always make sure to visit the poor relatives first, just in case that they were able to help them in case they needed the help. And so such was her life, and you can imagine it was a busy household with these 8 kids, and but she was always her dark eyes. And Master would write a story about her beautiful, dark, affectionate, full of love eyes that he used to miss so much after her passing, her early passing. But before I go to that story, she was both the mom and dad. They were disciples of Shamacharan Lahiri Mahashai. So there's a very beautiful story around that time. So they went to Benares. They heard about Lahiri Mahashai, and they went to Benares and got initiated there into Kriya Yoga. And the night they came back to Calcutta, she has a dream of the Divine Mother, who appeared to her in the form of Mother Chandi. And she sees this metal idol of Mother Chandi, and she wakes up from her dream and rushes to the puja room and finds there's a crack in the wall. And sure enough, as she lifts her little oil lamp, because there was no electricity, and this is before Yogananda was born, they find this beautiful, it's called Ashtadhatu. It's like made out of 8 metals, like an alloy of 8 metals, a beautiful idol of Mother Chandi. So it's like as if, Divine Mother was heralding the coming of this great devotee of hers, Paramahansa Yogananda, into their family by arriving there herself. And so when Yogananda was born, Gyana Prabha Ghosh, mother took the little child. He was only 1 year old, and they went to Benares to get the blessings of their guru, Lahiri Mahashai. And Lahiri Mahashai, as we all know, famously he predicted that this is no ordinary child. He would follow the path of Kriya Yoga. In fact, this is a great soul who has come to, he would be a spiritual engine who would take many, many, many souls to the kingdom of God. So Gyana Prabha Ghosh already knew about the destiny of this 4th child of hers. Mukunda was his boyhood name, and So she tried in every possible way to instill in him, or to encourage that already whatever he was born with, all these great spiritual qualities, and to encourage them even further. So from a very little, when he was very little, he and his mother, I could imagine that, a beautiful image of them both sitting next to each other and meditating in front of Lahiri Mahashaya's picture. So when he fell ill, when he was only 8 years old, I think they went visiting in Ichapur, their paternal home, and he fell ill there with Asiatic cholera. And those days, cholera was really a bad disease which would easily take away lives. And he was at the verge of losing his life. And his mother just urged him to remember Lahiri Mahashaya, and just to, even if he didn't have the energy to just sit up, even sit up on his bed, to just hold your arms together and mentally bow down to Lahiri Mahashaya. And he did that, and then a miracle happened. A great light came from the picture of Lahiri Mahashaya, and it healed Master instantly, and he was cured. And his mother also witnessed that light. So you need to be great to witness greatness. So she was a saint by her own right. And again, she was also a great artist. As we read about her from Shanandalal Ghosh's Mejta book, we learn about, who, by the way, was himself a great artist. We see lots of pictures that he created of Master himself, and many other pictures. So he was a professional artist. And when he refers to Mother, he says Mother was an artist of the highest order. She was not trained, but she would make these beautiful, perfect, intricate clay models. And she made one like a 1.5 foot tall Kali Murti for little Mukunda. And there's this beautiful story, again, I can visualize. So father used to move from one place to another. He had a transferable job. So while Yogananda was born in Bareilly in northern India, they moved even further north in a place called Lahore, which is today in Pakistan. And Shanandalal Ghosh recalls that when all the kids just jumped down from the wagon, and this is their new home, and everybody's running around trying to look for which is my room, and there was little Mukunda with his Kali Murti, and he had he held onto it, and he's looking for a space where that's going to be his altar, where he's going to put his Divine Mother. Such sweet devotion, even at such a small age. And then, of course, the very tragic part of Yogananda's life, when he was only 11 years old, he would lose his mother. Gyana Prabha Ghosh would pass away. She had gone to Calcutta to make arrangements for her eldest son's marriage, Ananda, their oldest brother, his marriage. And of course she is stricken with cholera. It was quite common those days. And that night, when she's very sick, Ananta would send an urgent telegram to father to come. But even before the telegram reached little Mukunda, who was sleeping next to father, he had this dream of his mother coming to him saying, Mukunda, wake up your father, and come at once to Calcutta if you want to see me alive. And so he was crying, and he tried to wake up father and tells him about the vision that he had. But of course, Bhagavati Charan Ghosh, says, no such thing, son. Your mom is in very good health. Don't worry. Go back to sleep. And sure enough, early in the morning, that next morning, the telegram arrives, and they rush to Calcutta, and it was too late, and she passes away. And so you can imagine this little 11-year-old boy whose entire life revolved around his mother, his refuge in every little ups and downs of that little life, the boyhood strifes, and he found refuge in her, and loses her. So he was grief-stricken. And again, Shanandalal Ghosh tells us of how he would just, every morning, there was this beautiful shuli tree, which is the parijat. It's a very beautiful tree found in eastern India. It's tiny little white flowers with orange stems, very fragrant, very small, and it always falls. If you sit under a shuli tree, it just falls on you. So he would go sit down under the shuli tree. And even Master talks about these great pangs of anguish he would feel at the loss of his mother during these times, and and then that got replaced by deep anguish for Divine Mother. And perhaps this was the divine plan. One thinks that, it was a plan to remind him of the great journey that is in front of him, how many he will inspire. Um, so that is also a very beautiful story of around this time he just wanted to fly to the Himalayas. The Himalayas and the sages there were calling him. So he plans, a little boy, he plans, and of course Ananda, his oldest brother, gets hold of him and brings him back. And at this point, Ananta presents Yogananda with a box and a letter from his mother, and she left this to Ananta at the time of her passing, asking him to pass this on to Mukunda. And there is this story, this remarkable story, that they were in Lahore at that time, and Yogananda was probably 8 or 9 years old when one morning a sage, a rishi, comes to her door asking to see the mother of Mukunda. And so she goes out and pranams, and she immediately feels the presence of a great spiritual soul. And this sage says, "Little mother, I have come from the great ones with a message for you, mother of Mukunda." So a silver amulet. I'm not going to give it to you now, just to prove that what I'm saying is true, but it will appear in your hands, and tomorrow when you meditate, and you are to give that silver amulet to Mukunda to remind him of this great task, the spiritual task that he has been destined with in this lifetime. And he also adds that you are also not going to be here on earth for too long. The next time you fall ill, you will pass away. And Yogananda's mother also, adds there that I did not feel afraid at all. In fact, there was a certain calmness when I heard about that. So sure enough, as Yogananda found that silver amulet, all his anguish, his yearnings kind of came in a full circle, and I think the memories of the past flooded him, and he understood perhaps who he was and what is this whole drama. And he was 12 years old then. So such is this beautiful story of this soul whose perhaps her sole purpose, Gyana Prabha Ghosh, his mother, her sole purpose was to remain as a wonderful being, an instrument of Divine Mother, a person of unconditional love, of patience, and of calmness in the face of all kinds of turmoil and difficulties of family life. And I will end with Yogananda's, for a few lines, it's a long poem called "The Lost Two Black Eyes," which he wrote after his mother's death, her passing. "Many black eyes, affection saturated, called to me, offering to appease my motherless sorrow, to make me feel less bereft and orphaned. But how could any match the love call in the glance of those two lost dark eyes? The love in those two black eyes, like the moon, had set upon the region of all eyes everywhere, seeking those two eyes in memories of past births and deaths, in countless lives and in countless broken dreams, in lands both known and unknown. At last I found my mother's eyes in the all-penetrating eyes of my Divine Mother. Divine Mother's countless black eyes pervaded all space and gazed at me from all hearts. They lurked at the cores of all planets and shone with supportive love from all stars, within and outside of everything. Those two dark eyes gazed at me tenderly everywhere. Blessings.